So I thought it'd be quite good just to sort of walk you through some of the mods that we've done to the vehicle since having it 6 months ago. I've not done anything that's going to infringe or impact the warranty. You know, buying a new car, having a warranty is part of that. But we've done a few little bolt-on changes. So we'll just walk through them first. Let's have a little look in the interior. So as mentioned out on the road test, just this addition of a tray. I think they are quite widely available. It's actually nicely made, fits quite well. It's just got some little sticky pads that sort of hold it in place. I say it's ideal because it will allow your phone to sit there quite well. You can even do some mild off-roading and the phone won't actually move about. And it just complements the general lack of storage being my complaint with the vehicle. What have we done? Well, we've got some official Jimny rubber mats. These are the ones that have got the big lip on. So if you've got wet, muddy shoes, it's going to contain some of the water. Not the cheapest mats in the world, but as you can see, they are looking a bit filthy, so they've been doing their purpose very well. Come as a set of 4. We've got some for the rear seats and the passenger. They are nice mats. I'd certainly recommend them over the carpet ones if you're planning to actually do any off-roading, because getting mud on the carpet it's just a pain, to be honest. So what else have we done? So still on the interior, also got the load mat for the rear. Again, this is the rubber mat. Really good because if you do fold the seats down normally, they're quite hard, shiny plastic and stuff just slides about all over the show. This mat fits in well and really does stop stuff sliding about almost completely. It's really grippy. Downside is if you want to have use of the rear seats, there's nowhere really to put this mat. It doesn't really roll up very well due to the fact that it's got a lip on the ridge on it. So if you're going to use the rear seats, you know, I usually take the mat out beforehand and leave it at home. But other than that, using it as a 2-seater vehicle, it's definitely worth doing. Does still provide easy access to the storage at the back. So in here we've got a kinetic strap and some nice bow shackles to attach it with to the vehicle. Big advocate of making sure you've got sensible recovery gear. You know, kinetic ropes are fantastic, and the straps or the strops are, you know, almost as good, but take up a lot less space. As you can see, it's nice and clean. We've not been stuck yet. I'm sure that will change in due course. Another addition is down here. I'm sure if you can see it on there, but got the little reversing camera. So it wasn't a option in the UK. It didn't come as part of the SZ5 model, but I did get the dealer to actually supply and fit it, so it's a genuine Suzuki part. I believe you have to take quite a lot of the interior trim out to get it wired in, and it will then appear on the central display when you select reverse. It's one of those mods. It's not startlingly fun, but it is very practical, and I think if I hadn't done it initially, it's one of those things you'd always wish you'd done but never actually do. So what have we got in terms of sort of more fun, functional or off-road mods? You might have just caught a glimpse. We've got some sidebars or rock rails, tree sliders, whatever you want to call them. These ones are by a company called Jimny Bits in the UK. They appear to be very nicely made, powder coated in black. They bolt on quite easily. I've seen there's been several different types of tree slider out there. Some of them perhaps don't fit as well as others. Quite happy that these look solid enough to take the weight of the vehicle. I have seen some videos of people having different ones fitted, and they've actually impacted something, and you can see the slider just wobbles about and really isn't very secure. But this does attach to the chassis nice and solid. I believe actually used them in anger as well. So despite the mud, you can see that the side here is actually undamaged, but we do have, and the camera will pick it up, some nice scuff marks on here. so they've certainly done their job and protected the vehicle. Worthy investment if you're actually going to go off-road. You do lose a little bit of ground clearance with them, potentially, but I've not had it be a problem so far. So I would definitely say they are worth doing. As I was mentioning earlier in the video, we've got the tyres. So there's lots of different tyres out there you can go for. These are 215/75 Maxxis Worm Drive all-terrains. Quite a nice tread on it. I think it's about 12mm deep tread. Reasonable block separation. Got some siping on it. Some good water channels as well. They've done a lot better in the mud than I would give an all-terrain credit for normally, but I suppose this is at the aggressive end of the all-terrain scale. And apart from the slightly blunted performance on road, you know, I think it's been a worthy choice. You could tell these tyres were quite a lot heavier than the original Bridgestone Duelers, which is probably the biggest contribution to the blunted performance, because they're not that much taller. In reality they measured up to be almost the same height, just a little bit wider, but they fit the rims well, so no trouble there. And then the most expensive mod so far is of course the heavy duty winch bumper. So this is actually an Ironman one. I ummed and ahed for quite a bit on what to get, or if to get anything at all. I really had a couple of complaints with the standard bumper. Is that one, I kept impacting it on the ground around this sort of area. It just hung down very low, as does the boat anchor recovery point down here. In fact, you can actually see we're missing paint off the bottom of it where it's been hit so many times. So I was wanting something with front recovery points built into the bumper, and something that gave a lot better clearance, as well as look nice. Sadly, I don't know why, but in the Jimny world, unlike the Land Rover world, none of the bumpers seem to have any recovery points on them. So that is still something to solve. My initial thought was to go for the ARB bumper. Looks really nice. Sadly, being in the UK rather than Australia, I just couldn't find anybody who actually wanted to sell it to me. ARB themselves seemed absolutely useless. I tried contacting them a couple of times. They eventually passed me on to a so-called UK agent who only wanted to sell me non-ARB stuff, which was sort of most odd. So they definitely lost a customer there. And then thankfully I just stumbled across Ironman 4x4 in an off-road magazine. So it's actually a company called West Coast 4x4, up in sort of the Bolton area of the UK. So I went up there, spent the day there, and they fitted it. The guys seemed really nice. I was quite happy to go back, perhaps get some suspension done and a winch at some point. Although they've gone really quiet on me. Unfortunately, I have hit a slight snag with the bumper, and that is under lock and articulation. These tyres actually hit this plate here. Now the plate is removable, and I'm assuming there might be some adjustment in the bumper to allow it to move forward as well. But it's a real shame that, you know, with something that's not really any bigger than a stock size tyre, it is actually hitting that. Had I gone for 235s, I think it would be a real problem. Again, I've tried contacting Ironman themselves. I think I've emailed them 3 or 4 times. They've answered no questions, not just on this, but on their suspension kit and some other items I was interested in. And they eventually just copied me into West Coast 4x4. And I've had no reply back from them. In fact, I've not heard anything from them since I bought this bumper, which I find quite disappointing because it was expensive, and I think a little bit of customer care, and I would quite happily go back to them and spend quite a bit more money with them. We'll give them another chance. I know COVID has affected lots of people. I know they were having their showroom redone, and currently their website's been down for a few weeks, saying it's under construction for a new website. So, you know, maybe they're just really busy, understaffed, I'm not quite sure what. Hopefully we can resolve it. But when I've paid all this money for the bumper, I'd kind of like somebody to actually solve the problems with it rather than myself. You know, if it had been a sort of £150 bumper, you know, maybe I'd be a bit more prepared to get my hands dirty and try and R&D and solve it. But there we are. In terms of the rest of the bumper, I really like the look of the bumper. It's got a nice finish to it. It's supposed to be durable and corrosion proof. I like the style of it as well. I think it really suits Jimny, makes it look a lot more Tonka toy like, if you know what I mean. So yeah, and it definitely has improved the front approach angle. The bumper no longer hits the ground when you're going off-road. And I'm sure if I put a lift on the vehicle, that'll probably solve some of the rubbing issues with the tyres. Although, you know, if it's a good lift kit, you should still get your suspension compression. I'm not going to lose any lock putting a lift kit on. So the problem will still be there, it will just be less frequent that you encounter it. I believe there are some recovery points that do fit to, well, the factory recovery points, but then mount through this bumper coming from Ironman 4x4. They're on their Australian website, but I've not managed to find any sort of price or ETA or availability on them. So what else have we done to the vehicle? Not a huge amount. I'm not sure we're going to be able to see it here. We've got some underneath, we've got some diff guards. We've got one front and rear. These are also from Jimny Bits in the UK. I think next on the list is they do a transfer case guard, which I think is going to be essential. So it's certainly a low point on the car, and you know, when you're cresting hills, or you know, if you're going to get beached or anything, it's that gets hit. And also the radius arms. So see if we can get a little bit of a shot. So under here, in actual fact, you can see we've got debris and we're missing some of the chassis protection where the radius arms have been constantly hitting, and that's the same for all four, front and rear. So Jimny Bits do some guards that just bolt on. Obviously it won't stop you hitting anything, but at least it should offer some additional protection there. So we're on the subject of the chassis. I know the past Jimny models are a bit prone to rust, so oh, this one is a bit dirty looking in here. The chassis, you should be able to see, has actually been treated. So I used a Dinitrol product. So basically the entire chassis and all of the metalwork that I could access in the wheel arches and underneath has been treated. I've also injected the chassis with another anti-corrosion product from Dinitrol, and any cavities you can get to. I think it's something to keep an eye on. You'll probably want to touch up as time goes on, and I might also do the axles. I know quite a few of the UK demonstrator cars are showing sort of rusty panhard rod links and corrosion around the radius arms and the axle, so we'll probably treat those as well. Next up on the mod list after that, got some mud flaps which should be being fitted soon. Hopefully that'll stop a little bit of the mud coming up the side. And then I want to do something potentially with the rear bumper or a tow hitch. I do have a small trailer that I'd like to tow, but I've really struggled to find a suitable tow hitch. We've got the factory recovery points there. Really I'm after a tow hitch and or a rear bumper that gives me either better rear recovery points and allows the use of a regular tow hitch. Ideally I'd like something I can change the hitch on, because I have more than one type of trailer. So I've got just a regular sort of 50mm ball that I want to use, and I also have what's called a Sankey trailer, which is a ex-British Army trailer that uses a NATO hitch or a pin tool, and it'd be nice for her to tow that as well. So I'm really wanting something a bit adaptable. Can't really see anything on the market yet that fits all my requirements, so that one's pending. And then of course suspension. You know, I don't think the standard vehicle does badly. Rides quite well on the road. It's quite capable off-road, but it is a bit bouncy off-road. Certainly doesn't ride as well as some of my Land Rovers going across the terrain, and it doesn't flex anywhere near as well as some of my Land Rovers do. So, you know, suspension is on the list, although I'm a little bit undecided what kit to go for. At the moment, Jimny Bits do a kit which is a 50mm kit, comes with extended brake lines, comes with the front crossmember dropper and the headlight adjuster for the LED headlights, as well as adjustable damping, premium shocks, and you know, the lift springs as well. I think that's my front runner at the moment. Most of the other kits on the market, they just have something about them I don't really like. The Old Man Emu kit, in principle, should be really, really good. I think it would make the vehicle ride better over, you know, sort of rough terrain, farm tracks, washboard surfaces. But it doesn't really offer a great deal of articulation over standard. I know if you watch the Old Man Emu video, they say the brake lines limit the amount of suspension droop on the rear, so they give you a shorter shock, so you don't need to change the brake line. You know, the flexi hose on the brake line, and on the front, they're obviously giving you a shorter shock because you don't have to drop the front cross member, which is a shame, because I think I would have gone for their kit had they have addressed those two issues, or at least given them as options. But yeah, this is where we're at. No real complaints for anything else apart from what I've said. I mean, I think that's a testament to the design, really, that the only two things I really complain about are the lack of cubby storage, USB ports, and crappy sun visors. Everything else about the car is good, bar one little annoyance, and that is the seatbelt bong when you haven't got your seatbelt on. Fully understand it when you're in high range and out on the open road, but when you select low and you're off-road, or you're green laning and you're jumping in and out of the vehicle, looking at the terrain or opening and closing gates, you don't want your seatbelt on. You don't need it at 5 miles an hour, unless you're running the risk of a rollover or something, but you shouldn't be on like a green lane. So that is a real annoyance. I am going to try and fish the plug out under the seat and unplug that bong, which I just don't know why there isn't some sort of override for in low range, because you're not going to be in low range on the open road ever. But yeah, apart from that, I'm super pleased with the vehicle all round. I'm not really going to give it a rating, but you know, I think for what it is, if you want an off-road 4x4 that you can use daily, you know, this is somewhere around sort of 9.5, 9.8 out of 10. There really are very, very few vices with it, and great value. You know, I really like the Jeep Wrangler, but in the UK, the Jeep Wrangler is about £50,000. The Jimny was £19,500, and as good as a Wrangler is, it's not 30 grand better, or 2.5 times better. You know, I'd have perhaps paid 15 grand more for a Wrangler, but that just wasn't an option. So I'm glad that I've gone for the Jimny. It is doing everything I want from a vehicle, and today is probably the best vehicle that I've actually owned. So I hope it continues. So one last word before we wrap up. Obviously, if you're modifying a vehicle, and I know people will love to comment on these sorts of things, speak to your insurance company. Make sure you get everything declared. I've declared all the mods on this, plus a suspension kit that I haven't even fitted yet, and they wanted about 15 quid extra on the annual policy. You know, it's just not worth not mentioning it. Get yourself covered, make it legal, and have fun. Cheers.